Now, as we were just talking about Virgin and about what's to happen there's quite a few issues to talk about with the Deputy Prime Minister, Michael McCormack. We had a chance to catch up a bit earlier tonight.
Well, Nicholas Moore has been appointed by the government. He will liaise with the administrators, and of course Deloitte has been called in to look through the books, to go and run the ruler over the books and see how we can get Virgin through, how they can get themselves through, and he'll be reporting back to Treasury, and Treasury, of course, will report to government. We want to see two commercially viable airlines through COVID-19, and Paul Scurrah, the CEO of Virgin, announcing the voluntary administration earlier this week, said that now that they're in that position, he felt that that could well happen. He said that they will come out of this stronger. Yes, they will restructure. Yes, they will recapitalise, refinance, and they'll come out the other side a leaner, stronger company. And that's important, I think, for their 10,000 employees. That's important for customers Australia over. They want competition in the airline sector, and I'm sure that through this process, that's what's going to happen.
Now, to make sure that those people keep their jobs, there's all sorts of variables, apparently 10 people lining up to potentially purchase them. I noticed that one of them is Macquarie Bank. Now, this is interesting to me because Macquarie Bank also owns most of the airports in Australia, certainly the metropolitan ones. Would you have a problem with the same people who own the airport owning the airline?
Well, it's probably too early to speculate yet, Paul, because, yes, you're right, there's about 10 potential investors. That could become 15, it could become 5 next week. I know there's the first week of the first meeting of the creditors is going to be held next week, but there'll be a lot to say. There'll be a lot play out before we finally see who's actually going to emerge as a potential buyer of Virgin, a potential owner of Virgin. We'll see what transpires over coming weeks and perhaps even months, and I'm sure Virgin will come out stronger at the end of it.
There are, as you know, bugger all cases of coronavirus in regional Australia. There have been 1 or 2 deaths, particularly focused around the Ruby Princess and Toowoomba. Are you feeding into the National Cabinet process what regional Australia wants? Because you can understand a frustration that might be building, say in your part of the world in Wagga Wagga or Tamworth or Townsville or further north, further west, that there's been no problem. It's hard to imagine there will be a problem, yet they're still in lockdown.
Well, there has been a death on the North Coast. There's been one at Orange. There's been one at Albury. It's one in all in, Paul. I've said that all along. We need to make sure that we don't have any outbreaks. Of course, we saw those outbreaks in Burnie. And we need to know that if there are going to be outbreaks, of course, we've got the ICU facilities, we've got the frontline medical staff. They're absolutely fantastic, of course, in regional areas, but we need to make sure that we keep our areas safe. Yes, there hasn't been too many cases, too many outbreaks, and that's been good. And yes, people can shrug their shoulders in the regions and say, well, why can't our pubs be open? Why can't we be playing sport? But it is one in all in. It only takes one person to come to a regional area. They could potentially, as Professor Brendan Murphy has said over and over again, transmit the virus up to 400 other people. So if it's good enough for the metropolitan areas to be shut down and Bondi Beach to be closed, etc., then it has to be good enough for the Wagga Wagga and the Tamworths, as you mentioned, and I think we'll hold true to what the Chief Medical Officer and his cohort say. We've taken the medical advice all the way through and we'll continue to follow it.
Macca, all the best.
Paul, just wanted to say a very sad day for the Victoria Police. That state, our nation, is really hurting after what happened last night, and you know, no one could imagine the heartbreak and the heartache of those families who've lost loved ones in that tragic accident. And I know you, like everybody else, will be almost numb tonight at the, that accident that occurred. Absolutely dreadful, and our hearts go out to those officers and their families.